All right, so now, the person we're all here for right now, Robert F. Sullivan was born and raised in Brockton, Massachusetts. He is the son of Robert and Susan Sullivan and grew up on Wellington Street in Ward 2. He attended Brockton Public Schools, Whitman Elementary School, and West Junior High School, and graduated from Brockton High School in 1988. He earned his BA and MBA at Boston College, go Eagles. I went to UMass, so you're lucky I'm saying that. That's just for you. And his JD at the New England School of Law. Prior to being elected mayor in 2019, he served on the Brockton City Council as a councilor at large since 2006. In that role, he was elected by his colleagues to serve as the city council president 5 times. He previously served as a volunteer board member of the Good Samaritan Medical Center, the St. Joseph Manor Nursing Home, and the Brockton Historical Society. He's a volunteer youth soccer, baseball, and basketball coach within the city of Brockton, a member of Our Lady of Lourdes Church. He's married to Maria Sullivan, who also grew up in Brockton, and they have 3 children. Please welcome Mayor Sullivan.
Well, good morning, everybody. So, first of all, let me start off by saying congratulations to each and every one of you. You are the best of the best in your respective high schools. I attended Boys State back in 1987 when it was at Bentley and Girls State was at Fitchburg. I am so proud that it's merged now here at Stonehill College, which is a phenomenal college here in Easton, although some of it does reside in the city of Brockton. So Brockton is right up the street from here. I was born and raised in the city of Brockton. We call it the City of Champions, right? We call it that for many reasons, right? If you know boxing, you know Marvelous Marvin Hagler, you know Rocky Marciano. Brockton Boxers football has been ranked nationally. USA Today, when I played, it was #1 in the country. But the champions are truly the people. Brockton has always been a city of, right now we have 106,000, but it's always been a city of immigrants. My own grandparents came from Ireland to work in the shoe factories. Now we just have a different, wonderful wave of people coming to Brockton. We have the largest Cape Verdean population, not in the Commonwealth, but in the nation, here in Brockton. A wonderful group of folks, residents and business owners from Haiti and Nigeria and Angola. So it's always been a welcoming, inclusive community. Now, we're not wealthy. When you talk about other municipalities, 351 municipalities, Brockton is not ranked highly in terms of our financial endeavors. But if you look at our ledger, what's really wealthy about Brockton is the people. So I'm here today as the mayor of Brockton. I'm really here to congratulate each and every one of you. I want to thank Mayor Nicholson for what he does. I want to thank the American Legion. None of us would be anywhere in our country without the sacrifices of our veterans, the men and women that have served and those that paid the ultimate sacrifice. So let's give a round of applause for all of our veterans. So I had the opportunity to be with Cassandra and Paul, the other mayors, and Mayor Nicholson at a wonderful symposium at the Meehan building just a while ago. A lot of you were there. What I said at that time, I'll say again, be engaged. When I sat at Bentley College for Boys State back in 1987, I tried to do everything, right? I ran for, at that time, Governor's Council. I tried to really foster a great relationship. I was from Brockton, right? So I was the scary guy. But I will tell you what I was able to do that day continues now at the age of 53. Some of my friends that I met that week at Boys State in 1987, and I know Girls State could say the same, are still my friends right now. Some of my closest friends I met that week. So continue to reach out to these folks. You'll all go to different colleges, but I could tell you my first week, freshman year at BC, I saw 6 different people that I had met at Boys State. So some of you will run for office someday, and I say congratulations to that. Some of you will not. Some of you will help on campaigns, but some of you will go into other academic pursuits. Some of you will go into professional pursuits. The next governor could be here, or a future governor, the person that chooses to go into medicine. And might have someone in this room right now that cures cancer. I hope to God you do. But I give a lot of addresses to people. A lot of people don't understand my Brockton accent, so if I'm talking a little too much, give me the motion. My wife says, being Irish, I talk too much. But I will tell you this. I served in the city that I was born and raised. Didn't have any money growing up. My mom was a nurse, and my dad was a teacher at Brockton High. I remember my junior year, I wanted to go on a program called Close Up to go to Washington, D.C., and I remember going home and asking my mom and dad, and they said, sorry, Bobby, we can't afford it. I remember I wanted to apply to BC High in Zavarian, and they said, Bobby, we can't afford it. And that's fine, because when I went to BC, I flipped burgers for 4 years at Lions Hall. I did work study to get through. And I only tell you that because we all come from different backgrounds and beliefs. But at the end of the day, no matter what you do, it's about service to others, right? And maybe that's the Jesuit training at Boston College, giving back. But I really think that if you run for office, or even if you coach, I'm the worst basketball, baseball, soccer coach probably in the history of the city of Brockton. But I do it for a reason. I do it, number one, because I have 3 kids, and my job is mayor, but my biggest job is being a husband and dad. That's the one that I really love. And my kids don't care that I'm their mayor. They just want me to be a dad, and that was illustrated yesterday. So if you have, fortunate to have a father, I hope your father enjoyed Father's Day yesterday. But I came here today to tell you that, many years ago, I sat out there, and it wasn't as palatial and beautiful as Stonehill's campus. And, I really didn't know what I wanted to do my junior year going into my senior year at Brockton High. But I truly knew that, number one, I was going to college, right? I knew I was going to college. I didn't know where I was going to go. And I applied to 8 different colleges, and I narrowed it down to Villanova and BC. And I am glad that I'm an Eagle, but I have a lot of friends that are Minutemen from UMass, so kudos to you UMass friends. But I can tell you that what shaped me in Brockton growing up was that, we're a city within Plymouth County. A lot of counties have been absolved and abolished in Massachusetts, but Plymouth County, which is the oldest county in the United States of America, it still exists. And Brockton is the only city in Plymouth County. So, when I went to Brockton High School, it was the largest public high school east of the Mississippi. We had over 5,000 kids in that building. Now it's a little over 4,000. My graduating class was 988 kids. Graduation was 3.5 hours, I remember, because it was about 90 degrees that day. But I tell you that going to college, what I learned at Boise State helped me, because I decided to be a political science major. And one thing I decided to do was get engaged, helping out on local campaigns. I helped out a lot of politicians over the years, holding signs, going to their campaign offices, making phone calls, licking envelopes, stamps, anything it could take to help the candidate that I supported. But again, in Brockton, much like a lot of other municipalities, if you're a local official, if you're a mayor or a city council or school committee, it's nonpartisan, right? So I'm a registered Democrat. I'm proud to be a Democrat here in Massachusetts. But my friends that are Republicans or independent unenrolled, locally, they can all support my endeavors. So to tell you a couple quick stories, when I ran for office back in 2005 for a city councilor at large seat, the way it is in Brockton is there's 7 district wards, right? And then there's 4 at large serving the whole city. So I ran for councilor at large serving the whole city. And I would tell you probably 80% of the people I talked to said, do not waste your time. You're going to get killed. Nobody knows you. You're not part of the Old Boys Network. And that kind of fueled my fire. I never wanted to be part of the Old Boys Network. I wanted to help the community that I love. So when I ran for office in 2005, it was me, my wife, my mom, and dad. That was it. And we did it the old-fashioned way. We just knocked on doors, right? It's people business that we're in. And so I was able to make it the way we do it here in Brockton. We don't have primaries. We have preliminaries because they're nonpartisan. So the top 8 people would make it to the finals, right, to the general election. So there were 13 people running for the 4 seats. I came in 7th, so I made it to the final round, and then the final round I came in 3rd. So I only tell you that story is because had I listened to the naysayers, I never would have ran for office. I never would be up here right now. So don't listen to the noise. I could tell you when I ran for mayor, it was very similar as well, right? I ended up serving 14 years as a city councilor at large. We run every 2 years in Brockton. Other cities, it's 4 years, but in Brockton, we're 2 years by our charter. And so what I can tell you today is that had I listened to those naysayers, number one, I wouldn't have run for city council, and I sure as heck wouldn't have run for mayor. But in the meantime, I took advantage of every opportunity I could in college. So I interned in Washington, D.C. my junior year. It was called the American University Washington Semester Program. So I left BC my junior year, spring semester, went to American University, and I interned on Capitol Hill down in D.C. for, at that time, his name was Brian Donnelly. He just passed away this year on the Cape, but Brian was our congressman, and I can tell you it was one of the best opportunities I ever had, right? Going down to Washington, D.C. and taking advantage of really the heart of the American government. And then my senior year, coming back to B.C., I interned on Beacon Hill for a state senator, a guy named Mike Creedon that actually became a judge, and he represented Brockton and some of the surrounding territories here, districts. I only tell you this because your future is bright, right? You're the next generation, you know, and I told this recently to Cardinal Spellman, where I gave the commencement address to Catholic school here in Brockton. When I became mayor, I got sworn in January 6th of 2020. So 6 weeks later, we had the worldwide pandemic, right? And I'm not medically trained. I have a business degree, I have a law degree, I have a poli-sci degree. But my wife, she actually works here at Stonehill. She is the director of health services here. So she went to medical school down in Georgia, a place called Emory University. So my wife, Maria, said to me, hey, Bob, there's a pandemic coming to the United States, right? It originated, as we know, in China. At that time, it was really impacting Italy. And she said, it's not when, it's not if, it's when it's coming to the U.S. And it's really gonna be detrimental. It's gonna kill a lot of people. And so what I did when I became mayor is I called all the hospital CEOs in Brockton. We have the VA hospital, right, for our vets. We have Brockton Hospital Signature Healthcare, which you might have heard had a major fire not too long ago. We have Good Samaritan Medical Center. So we have the big three, as I call it. And then we have the Neighborhood Health Center. And so we have a wonderful homeless facility here, helping our homeless population, called Father Bill's Mainspring. It's in the city of Quincy as well. And a lot of other nonprofits. And so I called them up. I'm the new mayor, and I said, hey, listen, I'd like you to come to City Hall. We have to talk about this thing called COVID-19, and you need to come respectfully and meet with me. Not one person said no. They all came. And, you know, some people say I'm pretty type A, right? Some people say I'm too nice to be mayor. I think you can be nice, but you can be effective, right? So what I did was I invited them all, and you know, we had a sit down, and I shut the door and I said, listen, this isn't about competition. This isn't about Brockton Hospital versus Good Samaritan Hospital and how much reimbursement you get from Medicaid or Medicare or Blue Cross Blue Shield. This is about all of us working together, right? We're better together. And we have to have a plan, and we have to execute that plan. And we have to think worst case scenario, right? And we hope for the best case scenario, but we'll probably get halfway in the middle. Now, in my wildest dreams, I never thought that we would have lost 536 residents that died because of COVID. But I can tell you, had that first meeting not happened and had all of those people not come together and collaborated, we would have probably lost well over 1,000 people. Now, people say, you know, why are you running for re-election? You know, most people would have said, let's call it a day, let's move on. Because the worst part of my day was every day at 4 o'clock, my phone would ring at City Hall, and they'd say, Mayor, we have the death count, and we have the sick count. And in the year 2022, 2021, or even now, you know, you don't expect that you'd have to be dealing with a pandemic. And I sure as heck didn't think I'd have to be having Governor Baker and Lieutenant Governor on speed dial to call Charlie Baker and Karen Polito, or call the Department of Public Health, or call Congressman Steve Lynch in D.C. or Senator Markey or Warren to try to save lives in Brockton, but it was a reality, right? And I'm not trying to be gloom and doom. I can tell you that all of you in this room, every single one of you, faced more in the pandemic than any of the adults here. We didn't have to do remote learning. None of us that are adults. It's not normal to sit at your house and look at a computer and be taught that way, right? You should be in the classrooms and in the hallways and being able to do sports and drama and band and all that stuff. But all of you stood tall, right? So that's why I always say to my own kids, like the next generation, all of you, we're in good hands. I mean, I'm 53, I'm on the back nine, right? But all of you have such promising futures. And it shows because you're taking a week right now to be here, right? You didn't have to do this, you chose to do this. You were selected and then you chose to do it. But I want to open it up to all of you, but I want to leave you on this. My daughter, Grace, I have two sons. I have Tommy and William, and then I have Gracie. And I'd come home every day, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. I didn't work remote as the mayor. I was at City Hall every day. But I had to do things in Brockton that a lot of people didn't have to do. I had to do curfews. And I still have some friends that I went to high school with that don't talk to me, believe it or not, right now, because I had to close all the gyms in Brockton, and they thought that was asinine. But I did it to try to save lives, and I quite honestly said, work out in your cellar, lift weights in your garage, because I have to do this to save lives. So my daughter Grace and my boys, we'd always get together every morning before I went to City Hall. And you know, the death count and the sick count, it's overwhelming, right? It really is. And all of you know people impacted or potentially lost loved ones because of the pandemic. But I'd come home at night and, you know, it'd be a long day and my kids would see it on my face, but I always kind of put on the smile. But there was one morning where that 4 o'clock call in the afternoon didn't come. It came in the morning because we lost 11 senior citizens in a nursing home overnight. And they called me to tell me that. And, you know, I'm lucky I have my mom and dad still with me, 83 and 82, and I have my in-laws still with me. But again, these were someone's parents and grandparents that passed overnight. And so I'm sitting at the kitchen table, and my daughter Grace saw it on my face, right, the look. And she said, Daddy, it's going to be okay. Be the kangaroo. Now, I looked at her. I said, excuse me? She said, Daddy, be the kangaroo. I didn't know what that meant. I truly didn't know what that meant. I said, honey, can you explain that to me? She said, Dad, kangaroos can only jump this way. Physically, they're unable to jump back. So always be the kangaroo. Keep jumping ahead. Keep jumping ahead. And I tell that story all the time at graduations because all of you will have disappointments in your lives, right? All of you will. Disappointments. But it's jumping ahead and it's being the kangaroo that's going to bring you to the next level. So I wanted to go to Notre Dame. That's where I wanted to go. I wanted to be a Fighting Irish. I didn't get into Notre Dame, right? And I always remember that disappointment. I ran for state representative in 2008. I wanted to be a state rep. I figured with a law degree and being a city councilor and having my MBA, I could do something at Beacon Hill. I'd been a lawyer at Beacon Hill. Guess what? I lost by 13 votes. So the disappointments you're going to face in life are real, right? And don't marginalize them or minimize them, but learn from them because I never lost by 13 votes ever again. So I'm here today, first of all, to answer your questions, to welcome you. Brockton is part of Stonehill, and Stonehill is part of Brockton. Father John Denning is the president of Stonehill. 20 years ago, next month, Father John married my wife and I. So he's an unbelievable priest. You don't have to be Catholic or Christian to understand what Stonehill College offers. It's a wonderful educational. So some of you might even apply to Stonehill, and I wish you all the best. But today it's to listen and learn from all of you. So the microphones are here. You can ask me anything you want. I was at Brockton High recently giving a similar talk, and the first kid up there came to the podium. He said, Mayor Sullivan, do you like hot fudge sundaes? Now look at me. Yes, I do. I do. So again, ask me what you want, focused on politics or government or running for office or giving back, but I'm here for you today. And again, thank you for having me. I truly appreciate it. So if you could, when you come to the podium, if you could just say your name and what municipality you're from, what city or town you're from in Massachusetts. Good morning.
Hi, my name is Bella DiBiasio. I'm from Plymouth, and I kind of wanted to ask, like, how do you think, like, growing up in Brockton kind of affected how you wanted to, like, figure out, like, what you wanted to do in life, like, enter political science and become a lawyer and a mayor eventually? Yeah,
great question. And I love Plymouth. You know, growing up in Brockton, you know, when you hear about Brockton on the news, right, you can say this about a lot of cities. It's typically on the news, it's the bad stuff, right? The drug arrest or the murder. You know, we have a city of 106,000 on the books under the federal census. We have a lot more than that. I can tell you, though, the good things are when I spoke at Brockton High graduation just last week, we got 2 kids going to Harvard, 2 kids going to Stanford, a kid going to Brown, a kid going to UPenn. So what I can tell you is growing up in a city of diversity was phenomenal to me. My dad, being a teacher at Brockton High, he kept stressing education, education, education. His mom and dad from Ireland. My grandmother quit school in the 3rd grade. So I knew I was going to college, but it's not for everybody. Some people go in the workforce or in the trades, or some folks go into the armed services. For me, I knew I was going to college. I knew I loved history. I knew I loved politics and government. And so I think growing up in a community of Brockton taught me, number one, that you're going to get knocked down, right? But really, and I'm a sports guy, I played rugby in college and football in high school. And, when you get knocked down, you dust yourself off and you get back up, right? And you be that kangaroo. So all of you could say you love growing up in the municipalities you're from, right? That's where you're from. That's where your family's raising you. I just happen to be born and raised in Brockton, Mass. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
How's it going? I'm William Griffin, C3, and as a person who's ran for a lot of prominent positions and given a lot of speeches, I was wondering if you had any words of advice for us in the next few days, and we probably already have, are going to be running for a lot of things and giving a lot of speeches.
Yeah, so believe it or not, when I grew up, I was kind of shy. I actually was. I ran for vice president in 7th grade at West Junior High in Brockton. I came in dead last, right? And I remember giving that speech that day like it was yesterday, and I had memorized it, and I forgot what I was supposed to say. I just couldn't remember what I memorized. So it's not for everybody. I took public speaking as an elective in college at BC. Very rarely will I write a speech. I just talk from the heart. For me, that works. For other people, speech and teleprompters work. Just be genuine to yourself. And, you're not going to make everybody happy. That's one thing about government and politics and public service. You can only control the narrative of what's before you, right? And if you do it in the best way that you know how, people understand that, people appreciate that. Now, I will tell you, though, when you give a speech, in my opinion, this is just my humble opinion, always look people in the eye. And if it's a large forum like this, make sure you're not leaving anybody out. Try to articulate so people in the back can hear you as well. But really, it's about being genuine. People will know if you're BSing or if you're lying to them. So just speak from the heart. Thank you, and good luck.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name's Kyler. I'm originally from San Francisco, but I live in Lexington now. I'm in T3 right now.
Great.
I want to ask, as somebody who's campaigned door to door on issues you believe in, how do you respond when somebody disagrees with an issue vehemently in front of you?
Yeah, I can give you a quick example on that, and I'll never forget it. So I can remember pretty much every location that I put a lawn sign on. I kind of have like a photographic memory when it comes to that. But I also can tell you who puts on lawn signs of people that run against me, and that's fine. The whole thing about politics, it's just like a sports event, right? Someone's going to win, someone's going to lose. I ran for state rep back in 2008, and I ended up, like I said, losing by 13 votes, right? The guy that won is now the state senator, Mike Brady. I work with him all the time. And then I wanted to run again, and they redistricted me. I was redistricted. My street was redistricted out of that district. So it was an open seat, and I ran again, and it was Easton and Brockton. And I ended up losing to a woman that is a dear friend of mine, and she's the ambassador under President Biden for Ireland. Her name is Claire Cronin. She was a state rep. So I will tell you this. When you knock on someone's door, number one, it's your introduction, right? First impressions are everlasting. What I will tell you is I remember on a hot summer day walking up a man's driveway. He was washing his red Corvette, and he was in the neighboring community. He asked me where I was from, and I said Brockton, and he told me to get off of his property. Now, he didn't give me an opportunity to tell him who I was, and that's fine. That's his property, and I respect that. But I sent him a note afterwards. I don't know if the guy ever voted for me or not, but it's really the personal touch. When you ask for someone to support you or you ask for someone to consider voting for you, you want to be that person, that man or woman's advocate, right? And so in this era right now with social media, there's a lot of meanness and negativity. I'm running for re-election right now, and there's a candidate running against me really saying such terrible things about me. And for me, I'm pretty thick-skinned, but, my kids are on social media. So, I think you respectfully can disagree with folks. But honestly, if you're running for the right reasons, you don't have to, and you're a voter, and I'm knocking on your door, you don't have to agree with 100% of what my platform is or what I'm trying to do. But I truly feel the educated voter, first of all, number one, if you open the door to that person, you're interested in hearing from that person, right? But I think the educated voter will understand if you respectfully disagree on certain issues, because again, at the end of the day, that's what democracy is all about, right? And that's what makes America great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, first things first, welcome to Boy and Girl State.
Thank you.
So my first question, my question would
Where
be...
are you from?
Yeah, Newton.
Peabody.
So my question is, how do you deal with imposter syndrome, and have you ever felt it? You said you felt being someone of an outcast from the old boys club. So how do you feel about that, and how did you deal with that?
I couldn't hear the first part.
How did you deal with feeling like an outcast from the boys club or the old boys club, and how do you deal with imposter syndrome, if you ever dealt with that?
Yeah, I mean, my whole mantra is run for a reason, be an advocate. And again, politics is an interesting component. I don't consider myself a politician. Other people might. I mean, I truly consider myself Bob from Brockton, a guy that grew up in Brockton is trying to give back. I respect the system, the political system as a whole. But you can't listen to the naysayers. Honest to God, if I had listened to people that were negative, right? Don't listen to the noise. There was an old saying my grandmother from Ireland used to say. She'd say, Bobby, roll up your sleeves and keep your eye on the prize. And my Nana would say that to me all the time, right? And, half the time I didn't understand what she meant, but I understand what she means now. Like, if you listen to the noise and you don't stay focused on really what the end result is, what your goal is, you're not going to achieve that goal. So the Old Boys Network, or whatever you want to call it, they can do their own thing. What I'm trying to do is help the 106,000 people that I represent in the city.
Thank you.
Thank you. Morning.
Hello, Mayor Sullivan.
How are you?
I'm Owen Raymond from T3 in Westminster, Massachusetts, Central Mass.
Yep.
And I was wondering what your thoughts are on, and are you afraid of someone slandering your name when you're campaigning and your family's name?
So, great question, first of all. Yeah, I mean, I get slandered probably on a daily basis, more so during the election cycle. I told this story at the last meeting we had. One of the first things I did as mayor was I bought 72 different flags of nations that represent, that we know of, the 72 different countries where people have immigrated to Brockton. The first flag I bought was the Pride flag, and people had said to me, oh my God, you're not going to put that flag up, are you? And I was like, you're darn right I'm going to. Now, other mayors probably shied away from any of that stuff. My view is we have to be a welcoming, inclusive community, right? We have to be. And so the negativity that I hear out there, I look at social media, I look at Facebook, I get it. It's probably not a healthy thing to do. But I try not to be brought down by that stuff. I could tell you that, running for office is a rewarding experience, win or lose. But in this day and age now, it's become such a hotbed of at times, meanness, right? There's some mean people out there that are anonymous behind social media writing this stuff that don't know who I am. So again, I try not to listen to that stuff. Now, I have a wife and kids and a mom and a dad and sisters and a brother, and I know they all look at it, and I have a lot of friends that go back on social media, giving it back and forth to the people that are spreading the lies. But again, you know, I think it's the people that, I hope that those people are isolated cases of discontentment. Like, I'm hoping those folks that are just angry and mad and trying to be counterproductive are just a slim margin of the folks. And I know that to be the case, and I'll tell you why. Because the last time I ran, I got 72% of the vote in the city of Brockton. And I don't say that for me. I mean, my name was on the ballot. But that just goes to show 72% of the voters understood that we're doing the right thing right now, and we'll continue to stay the course. Thank you.
Thank you.
Morning.
Hello, Mayor Sullivan.
Hi.
My name's James. I'm from Andover, Mass. And my question was, just with all of the doom and gloom about climate change in the news right now, I wanted to ask from you, as a leader, what gives you hope for the environment and for the future of Massachusetts?
So a lot of you don't know, I think, who's from Brockton? Raise your hand if you're from Brockton. City of Champions in the house. I know also some of you are here. I know Allie Bassett's here, and her dad is a great member of the Brockton Fire Department. So I think at the end of the day, what's good for Brockton could be said for any of the 351 municipalities, right? But Brockton is a first for many reasons. We actually had, Thomas Edison lived in Brockton. I had a business in Brockton for 2 years before he started electrifying New Jersey. So we had the first electrified movie theater and street light and fire station in the nation in Brockton, right? The first department store Santa Claus in the history of the United States was here in Brockton. But we also had the first bright field in the Commonwealth, right? So the whole goal about harnessing the sun and the wind for renewable energy is here in Brockton. And again, I'm biased because I love the city, but the Commonwealth has really been on, I think, the upper echelon of creating some great things. Now, we all heard about this thing called PFAS, right? PFAS is the new asbestos or lead or UFI. And so it's not just impacting Brockton and the waterways. I know it's really having an impact on Cape Cod with all of the military bases down there as well. So I have a concern, you know, of the environment for your generation. Brockton uses desal water as well. Our redundancy backup is desalinated water that we use. It's called Aquaria. So I think we as a Commonwealth need to continue to think outside the box. You know, I support solar projects. We are actually looking right now to do some solar projects in Brockton. It's city-owned properties. We're building a $98 million public safety building in Brockton. It's going to be 4 departments in one building. We're going to be able to use solar there as well on the roof. You know, I think if you don't look, and you don't look at all type of options, you're missing the boat. And I'll tell you a quick example. So I go to Washington, D.C. every January. It's the U.S. Conference of Mayors. A lot of the mayors that were here join me, but they're mayors nationwide. And so the last one I went down in January, when I go down there, you know, I go visit my Congressman, Steve Lynch. I visit Congressman Bill Keating because Brockton owns some property, Silver Lake, which is in his district, and then Senators Markey and Warren. And I was coming out of a room, and I was sitting kind of like you guys were, and I was kind of bored stiff, to be honest with you. Speaker was talking like this. But I remember walking out of the room, and there was a kiosk of folks, and Department of Energy was there. And I went over and I said, "Hi, how are you? I'm Bob Sullivan from Brockton, Massachusetts." Now, Brockton, Massachusetts didn't mean anything to this guy. Nothing, right? But I said, "What can you do for Brockton? You're Department of Energy." I said, "My zip code, we have 2 in Brockton, 02301, 02302. Boom, boom, boom. He puts it in his computer, and he said, "I have $151,000 for the city of Brockton for EV charging stations." So we grabbed that, and we're going to have EV charging stations. So I think you have to think outside the box, and it starts with, number one, advocating for your municipality. I go down to Washington quite a bit. You know, we are not a coastal community in Brockton, right? So growing up, a lot of kids that go to the beach, they go to a pool on the east side of the city called the Cosgrove Pool. That pool, which I lifeguarded at years ago, hasn't had any money put into it probably since the 60s. So when I went down to see Markey and Warren and Lynch, I asked the senators and the congressman, "What do you have for Brockton, like the beach?" And to their credit, they gave us $3 million. So it's about being in the people business. But in terms of looking at all options of energy and renewable energy, we need to do that. We need to continue to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Morning.
Morning. Hi, my name is Brian Starzik. I'm from Springfield, Mass. I was just wondering if you could go over some of the everyday issues that you have to deal with when they fall on your desk as mayor.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Springfield's a great city. I've done so much there. So our budget is, we just passed it. The way it works is it's the mayor's budget, right? I work with my chief financial officer, and it's $500 million. $550 million is our annual budget. It's a ton of money, right? And one thing that I did during COVID, a lot of the mayors would get on a Zoom every Sunday night, and the mayor of Boston at the time was a guy named Marty Walsh, and we all know Marty, Mayor Walsh, who became the labor secretary, and now he's the players' union rep for the NHL. But Mayor Walsh would do a Zoom, and Mayor Driscoll, who is now Lieutenant Governor, Kim Driscoll, she used to be mayor of Salem, they would mentor a lot of us newbies, a lot of rookie mayors, and so a lot of mayors had to pause construction during COVID. What I said in Brockton is if I pause construction, I'm going 10 years in the wrong direction. So we're going to keep construction going. We're going to do it to adhere to all the safe health protocols, right? Social distance and all that stuff. But if I pause construction, it's going to have truly a detrimental impact. So we didn't stop construction. We have 700 housing units downtown Brockton right now. 400 been built, another 300 in the queue. And people say, well, why are they moving to downtown Brockton? Well, we have the commuter stop, 3 commuter stops in Brockton, right? So you can jump on the train, get into South Station in Boston in 35 minutes. So a lot of young professionals are moving to Brockton as opposed to Charlestown and Dorchester and Southie and even Quincy and Braintree because it's cheaper now, right? So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to treat Brockton as a business. And as the mayor, I'm the CEO of the business, right? And I have people that work for me, they're my staff or whatever. I don't call them that. We're a team. They're my team members. And so we need to continue, number one, to provide the services that the taxpayers, the constituents, the people that elect me, pay their taxes for and respect and are entitled to. But at the same time, we have to attract new businesses here and new growth here. It's going to help our tax base. So growing up in Brockton, I never in my life thought I'd ever meet a billionaire. A billionaire? How the hell would I ever meet a billionaire? But in the last 3 months, I've met 3 of them. I met a guy from Nashville that owns the Nashville Predators. It's a professional hockey team down there. I met another guy from Newton that owns the Kraken. It's a professional hockey team out in Seattle. And then I met a guy in Orlando, Florida. And they all came to Brockton to meet with me. And I asked them, number one, and they're on Forbes magazine and all that stuff, and they're great. Listen, they're just like us, right? They just have more money than us. I asked them, why is Brockton on your radar? And number one, because they understand how close we are to Boston, how close we are to Providence, Rhode Island. But also, we're in an opportunity zone. We're pro-business. We didn't pause construction. And we're giving them all the tools in the toolbox. And what I mean by that is there's historic tax credits. Like we have a lot of old factories here. The legislature, the folks on Beacon Hill, the state reps and state senators give us a lot of money to work with, right? But at the end of the day, we're also spending money, the ARPA money, American Rescue money, the federal money that's coming in. Brockton got $34 million. Now, we also have another $17.5 million that's Plymouth County holding. They got $110 million, the county, and out of that 110, Brockton's entitled to another 17.5. So my whole mantra is, I put my little business hat on. We want to spend money wisely, but we want the return on investment to be real, right? And so all these high net worth people that are considering investing in Brockton, every time they call me to say, will you meet with me? Number one, the answer is always yes. And the next thing I say is, wear your sneakers. And there's always a pause there. I say, because we're going to walk and talk. Like, I can't sit in my office and talk about Brockton. I have to be out in the streets and show you Brockton, right? And so you're going to do that if you want to meet with me. And they all do, right? It's great. So I can tell you that the day-to-day operations vary. I think the worst part of the job, I think, is since some folks have worked at City Hall or the schools for so long, and I applaud them and I thank them, when a new person comes in, right, you want to have kind of a new culture change, right? And so the buy-in has to be real. And some people buy in right away. They understand, hey, this guy Sullivan, he's no joke. Like, he sees where we're going, and I support that. But there's also some people that are probably thinking, I've been here 30 years, I'm going to outlast this guy. I've outlasted 6 mayors. And I get that, but either you're going to be swimming in the same direction with me or you're swimming in the wrong direction. And we need to swim in the right direction if we want to take Brockton to the next level. Now, every mayor or every town manager or town administrator could say the same thing. But with that being said, I'm here today as the mayor of Brockton, and we have a lot of opportunity that continues in Brockton. We have a lot, I think, that people don't know about. We have a nationally recognized craft museum, a museum in Brockton called the Fuller Craft Museum. People from California have their works on display. We have a baseball team called the Brockton Rocks. We have one of the best municipal golf courses in Brockton. We have just a great culture type of restaurant and vibe and setting. So today is Juneteenth, and I want to, first of all, also recognize the importance of this day. As a son of a history teacher, this is an extremely important day, and I want to thank the president for making it a national holiday. So I also want to just say that all of you are engaged, or you wouldn't be here. Thank you for that question. Any follow-ups? No? Oh, another question. Hey, how are you? Morning.
Hi.
Hi.
So I'm DJ Monserrati, and I'm from Chicopee. Here
Yep.
I'm from the town of Unity. I was wondering, in your personal experience, as we're reaching the voting age and we are soon graduating high school, what is political advice that you would encourage us to follow or remember?
Great question. And you asked some great questions in the other one, so thank you. And I love Chicopee, too. It's very similar to Brockton. So number one, register to vote. When you are age to register, right? Seriously, think about that. We open it up thinking our vets. Without sacrificing the vets, you wouldn't have the ability to vote. So you can't complain if you don't go to the polls and vote, right? And I say that respectfully because I know a lot of people that don't bother, or they say, my vote doesn't matter. Yeah, it does. Believe me, it does. I also think that in your age group right now, be engaged on the local level. You know, there was and I had the opportunity to meet him. I used to see him at church on the Cape in the summer in Harwich. Tip O'Neill. Anybody know Tip O'Neill? Does that name ring a bell at all? So Tip O'Neill was the Speaker of the House, the U.S. Speaker of the House. He was a Massachusetts guy, born and raised in Cambridge, went to B.C. He was a state rep, state senator, lieutenant governor, and unbelievable public servant. And what Mr. O'Neill would always say is all politics is local. Like, that was his thing. All politics is local. And it's true. It really is. So from a local perspective, number one, you're going to be going into your senior year. Senior year is an unbelievable year. It really is. Enjoy every part of it. And then you're going to go on, a lot of you go on to 4 years, university or colleges. Be engaged there as well. But don't forget home. Like, I remember being at BC, and I remember asking my mom and dad to come and get me so I could come home to vote. Not a lot of my friends would do that. You can do mail-in ballots. A lot of them wouldn't bother. But again, while you're away for those 4 years, or if you're living at home and commuting, be engaged, but also be mentors. Not everybody in this room is going to run for office or be a mayor or a governor. Some of you are going to go on to unbelievable endeavors in academics and professional endeavors. But know that your community, wherever you call home, is home, right? And it's home for a reason. So it means not forgetting where you came from, because it gave you the stepping stones for success, right? And so the only thing I could tell you is, because I sat out there, and I'm really excited that Girls State and Boys State are merged. I really am, because again, it just makes sense to have everybody, number one, in the same room at the same time, because all of you are the futures of the Commonwealth and our nation. So what I will tell you is, no matter where you live, if you live in a small town in the Berkshires or a small town on the Cape, or if you live in a city up on the North Shore, like, do something that has an impact. And what I mean by that is, when I graduated from law school and I opened up my law office in Brockton before I got married, I wanted to give back, and I knew I was going to coach if I was fortunate enough to have kids someday. I knew I wanted to coach my own kids, and if I didn't have kids, I was still going to coach. But I called up the mayor on the phone at the time, a guy named Jack Unitz. In the history of Brockton, he's the longest serving mayor. He did 10 years, 5 different terms. And I called him up and I said, Mayor Units, you don't know me, but I want to be on a board or commission. I want to volunteer. And he said, okay, send me your resume. And so he called me back and said, hey, you're a young lawyer. You're a poli-sci major. Are you interested in volunteering, not getting paid, for the planning board? And I said, sure, I don't really know what that is, but I'm going to figure out what it is, and I want to do that. I did it for 2 years before I ran for city council, and then when I ran, I had to step down. It was awesome. When you're on the planning board or the conservation commission or the zoning board, or in Brockton we have the women's commission and diversity commission. We have the historical commission. There's just a plethora of commissions and boards in all of your cities and towns. So don't be afraid to be engaged that way as well. But I think the biggest thing is when you can register to vote, vote. And just remember that asking questions and not being afraid of trying to go against the norm is important. It's important. It's why we're celebrating Juneteenth today, right? And it's why we support all the diversity in the city of Brockton and beyond, right? It's not listening to the naysayers, and it's continuing to do what my Nana said, roll up the sleeves with the eyes on the prize. So thank you very much.
Thank you.